Right. So your name is?
Emmy van Deurzen.
And I'm Digby Tantam. And Emmy, we started the new school together in 1996, but you had actually had a very long career developing existential therapy and existential teaching before that, hadn't you?
Yes, I worked for 18 years with the program at Regent University, which I had also developed and basically ran for all that time. So when we started in 1996, it was really about re-establishing what had been lost, but doing it in a way that was more specifically existential than it ever had been before. And we did that very much together because you brought in the validation from the University of Sheffield, which was so much needed.
Right. Your I mean, you carried the whole thing though in those early days, commuting from Sheffield in order to run it and teach it. But I remember the one thing that I did probably in that time was emphasize the idea of having online courses, wasn't it?
That was your big contribution in the year 2000 when we started on the European projects, bringing in online training in psychotherapy, which has turned out so important during the lockdown and the pandemic. But I wanted to say that I didn't do it on my own up to then, because I worked so very closely with Claire Arnold Baker, and it was the two of us in a tiny little office reinventing psychotherapy training in existential psychotherapy. And I think what we have now got at the Existential Academy with this big group of staff members and all these 5 master's courses and 2 doctoral programs is still very much in the spirit of those early days, which is to have an educational program which is different to anything else, which is about the exploration of people's existential problems.
So the master's courses started with 1 student and you started the doctoral, what became the doctoral course, with, was it 6 students?
Well, we had 12, but then we lost 6 because we were pursued by a hostile situation. So we started with only 6 students in September 1996, and now we've got how many, Dig?
I think it's between 300 and 400.
Active students.
Active
yes,
students.
and about 500 on our books.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's pretty amazing in itself, isn't it?
So
when people didn't think it could be done, but we did it.
No, well, everybody knew you could do it, but whether we could all do it together wasn't so clear. So we're planning on retiring in a year, aren't we?
We are.
What do you think you'll look back on and think that was the biggest single achievement of all that wonderful progression?
The biggest single achievement is for sure that we were able to inspire people to step into this learning community, to make it their own, to want to develop it, to want to add to it, to want to change it, to want to challenge it, and to keep it alive, to keep it dynamic, and to spread that around the whole of Europe where other people have done similar things, and around the whole world. As you know, we've traveled around the world spreading this thought. And there are many, many organizations now around the world that do existential training.
Yeah, I have to say, I think I've been more of a backroom boy and you've been much more the public face of all of this.
That is one way of putting it, but you've also been the person who has brought the foundations, the academic foundations, the online foundations, the financial foundations. You bring all of that substratum without which the organization would have folded.
Yeah,
so you have been hugely important.
Well, that's very kind of you to say.
No, it's true.
You brought the ideas and the concepts. You've given people a sense of what it is like to be existential in your approach.
And what can be done when we approach human problems in this creative way, where people are not pathologized and they don't end up in despair or feeling different or estranged from society, but they feel they can engage with their problems and make something new out of it, something creative, which actually makes them stronger rather than weaker.
So it's a bit of a remarkable track record, isn't it? You created organisations, you chaired the United Kingdom Council for Psychotherapy.
So have you.
So have I. You've written copious books.
18 so far.
18. You've had a very, an internationally sought after clinic provided by you personally, but you've also... Well, I don't know really.
Yes, your autism clinic was one of the first in the country.
That's true. That was a different strand, wasn't it? Yeah.
Mature adult people with autism. That is something often forgotten.
Yes.
But you've brought that into the Existential Academy,
it's nice
and
to
we
see
now
that
do
growing.
a lot of things around that too.
We do, yes.
So it has been very much about us doing it jointly and weaving things together, adding very different things, coming with very different backgrounds, but also with a commitment to the same ideas and the same commitment to human beings, really.
And also the idea of limit situations, of crises, not necessarily being disasters, but an opportunity for reframing and changing.
And that came out of us co-directing the Centre for the Study of Conflict and Reconciliation at the University of Sheffield as well, which we often forget about.
Yes.
But some of the work we did there has found itself back into what we do here.
Yes.
So all of these side roads and the work we did with the European Association for Psychotherapy as well, all of those connections and that connectivity is part of that network and that framework that is kind of an alive organism which will survive very well without us, and that is the achievement. It's alive.
As we saw today, the first opportunity for many of us to get together in the flesh after COVID. So many people have picked up on these different strands and are taking them in different directions and developing them. It's inspiring
and
to see
they're all
that,
passionate about it.
They are, yes.
And they all make it their own, and they take responsibility. They do their own thing, and they make it bigger than it ever was in their own ways.
Yeah.
And that's wonderful to see.
It is, yes.
It really is a bit like being the parents who are having to let it go to the grown-up children and trusting that they will make it something that wasn't even in our minds, that we didn't even think was possible.
And the greatest thing is they all think they can do it better than us.
Yes, which is as it should be. And it's probably true too.
Maybe.
Yes,
Who
because
knows?
the founders are always a little bit particular about what they do. And all this new blood is, making sure that it doesn't become stagnant and it doesn't remain what we thought it should be, but it stays alive and it becomes something new and wonderful.
Yeah.